My name is Sallie, and I'm here in my Brooklyn backyard sitting on my deck. And today we're going to have a gardening session, and we're going to learn how to plant an herb garden. We may be planting it in a window box, but today we're going to concentrate on just planting one plant in this pot. So before we get started with the actual step-by-step gardening process, we're going to learn the supplies that we will need for the session. So I always like to have a tablecloth. I have this bright red and white one down on my table, and a tray. It keeps everything together, and it doesn't create quite a big mess. So we have a tablecloth, a tray. We're going to have our container. Today we're using a small, medium-sized container for one plant, or you can use a window box where you'll put 3 or 4 plants. Then we need some kind of scoop. It might be a cup, it could be your shovel, it could be a spoon, it could just be your hands. Some people like to wear gloves. I like to feel the soil, so I prefer not to. But if you don't want to ruin your manicure or deal with the dirt under your nails, please wear gloves. Then later on, we will also need a saucer to put under our pot to catch the water. All right, and last but not least, we need to have a watering can or some kind of container to water your plant. All right, so let me tell you about the plant. That's the best part. I'm sure all of you love herbs because we all love great food, and fresh herbs really give food their flavor. I'm sure all of you have eaten parsley, oregano, basil, sage. All of these make for wonderful, wonderful flavors in our food. I don't know about you, but basil just is one of my most favorites because it brings back the memory of great pizza and great tomato sauce. But today we're going to start with this parsley plant. And the parsley plant, like many of our herbs, come from the Mediterranean area. That means like Italy, Greece, Egypt, Turkey, all of that area. And it's a very hardy grower. In our area, it'll usually act as what we call a perennial. And that means it will come back year after year. And it grows these lovely green leaves on the end of these nice stalks. And it will continue to get bushier and taller. It gets to be about 12 to 18 inches tall. All right. And the best thing about parsley is that as it grows, you are going to be able to just snip off each leaf and chop it or just use it whole to spice your food. I like parsley in salads, soups, chicken, fish dishes. It goes with everything. And that's why I thought parsley would make a great herb to start with today. So let's begin. So I have my tray and I have my pot. And I'm going to actually put some rocks or some broken shards into the bottom of my container, my pot, pour them in, because that actually gives it a nice solid base and it allows the water to drain through. So next we have our soil. Everybody asks me what kind of soil to use. And for containers, the best to use is potting soil. It's got a great texture. I want you to take your soil when you have it next to you and really put your hands in it and feel this texture. It's light and airy. And the reason for that is that it has a multitude of dirt. It has some twigs or bark in it, and it has these little white pellets that lighten the soil. The pellets are called perlite. And it gives the soil this light texture. And I think soil is just this wonderful thing for you to get your hands into. So you can just put the soil right into your pot like that, or you can use a scoop. A scoop makes it a little less messy. So we're just going to fill up our container about a third full. And I kind of push it out to the edge because we're going to have to get our parsley to fit inside our container. So the next step is I want you to take your parsley plant and squeeze the sides and loosen it. And then you tilt it and you hold it by the base and you tilt it and squeeze to release it from its pot. Oh my goodness, look at all these roots that are in this parsley plant. So the thing to do is you want to loosen the roots. We call it teasing the roots so that they can grow in their new potting soil. All right, so we take the whole bunch here, whole plant, and we put it right down into our pot. So you're going to see now that there's room for soil to go all around the outer edges. So you don't want the plant to be too high. My plant is positioned right near this rim. And I'm just going to be able to fill the soil right around the edge. So, like I said, I like to use my hands and I just rotate the pot and pour in the soil. Or alternatively, you can use your scoop. This happens to be a yogurt cup. I recycle them and use them as my little garden scoops. All right, here we go. Some of the best herbs, even before you start to plant them or cut them up and chop them and use them in your food, have a great aromatic smell. Basil and oregano, parsley. As soon as you put your hands on them, they start to give off this great, great smell. And that's the other good thing about planting herbs is that even if you're not going to eat them, they look really beautiful growing, and then they have this great aroma. It's always cheerful, in my opinion. All right, so as I'm filling it in, I'm taking my fingers and I'm patting it down all around. And that's because you want to anchor your plant firmly in its pot. If you had a windy ledge, it could fall over and hopefully it won't fall out. It also allows for the roots to connect with the soil so that they can drink the water and get the nutrients they need to grow. All right, so I kind of have mine all tucked in now. You can see I centered it right in the middle of my pot so it can just grow up and out. And here, if you look closely, I did not go higher than this little rim that's all around the pot, because when you water your plant, you want to allow for the soil to bubble up and you don't want the soil spilling over. So now that we have our plant all nicely potted, you're going to place your saucer that you have and put it underneath the container because you have to water your plant. The plant needs, what does it need? It needs sun and it needs water in order to grow. And almost all the Mediterranean herbs need a pretty good full day of sun. Anywhere from 4 to 8 hours, Mediterranean herbs really thrive on. The parsley plant doesn't need quite as much, so it's great for city growing because it doesn't require quite as much sunlight. So if you have a more northern or eastern window, this might be a great place to put it. But it will also be fine in a sunny window. You just may have to water it more frequently. All right, so this plant came with its very own information label. So it gives you a few details, and I highly recommend that you keep this label and put it next to your plant so you remember this is the parsley plant. Sometimes we all forget what it looks like and what the name of it is. So it has usually some instructions on the bottom, but if it doesn't come with a label, it's really great to make your own label. So you can just write on either an old label or a popsicle stick, parsley. And then you put today's date, because it's great to know when you planted your plant. And you can see how it's growing from the time you started. So I just wrote parsley, and I wrote 5/20/20, May 2020. And I put it inside here on the edge. All right, so the last thing we have to do is to water the plant. So my little watering container right down here. And you want to always water. People always ask, you want to water from the top up here of your plant and not down in the saucer. So you start here and you do it gently and you water all around. In the beginning, when you water, you want to thoroughly water your plant. All this new soil you put into the pot needs to get fully soaked. So you keep watering gently and you wait for the water to saturate all the way down. And the rule of thumb normally is you water until you see it come out the bottom into your saucer. So we're going to continue watering. I'm going to wait and see if it's coming out the bottom. So, like I said, if you have a nice sunny window, it would be great to put your plant there. If you have a little balcony or outside deck, you can place your container outside and it will thrive all summer long. Outside, because of the wind and the sun, you might need to water it more frequently. Inside, I'm going to guess you won't need to water it more than 2 to 3 times a week. Outside, you might need to check on it more often. Let's see, nope, I don't have any water. We're gonna keep watering. Some of the other herbs that are great for a window box are also from the Mediterranean. And I mentioned before, you could do basil, oregano, rosemary, thyme. And what's great about them, you could plant all 3 or 4 of those herbs into a window box because they all need the same kind of sun and watering. You want to always put in your container, oh, guess what? Water. It's coming out of the bottom. It's dripping through. So now we let it totally drip through and then we discard the extra water. We do not want to keep this excess water because it will rot out our roots. I know sometimes you think that's a good idea, but quite honestly, it's not recommended. So I'm going to take this water and I'm actually going to water some of my other herbs I have behind me. And I'm going to bring this back. If you have a little bit, it's not really a problem. This might continue to drip a little more. That's not a problem, but you have half an inch or more of water, please pour it off because you don't want your roots to rot. So, like I was saying, in order to take good care of this parsley, you're going to put it in a sunny window, water it about 2 to 3 times a week. And at any point now, because this plant's already vigorously growing, you can snip off and use the leaves. So people are going to ask me, how do you snip it off? You can take scissors or you can just take your fingers and pinch it off. I usually pinch it off at the base because then it will continue to grow nicely. If you were to pinch it off in the middle here, you'll just have this ugly stem. So that's not very attractive. So pinch it off at the base, and then you're going to take your leaves and chop them or just break them up with your fingers and add them to your food. So thank you for joining me today in my Brooklyn backyard. I'll be back with another session on how to plant a window box using our Mediterranean herbs. And I look forward to talking with you again. Thank you.